This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast, with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
And welcome into another episode of Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. I am Brandon Spinner, as always, alongside my buddy, my guy, Michael Burns. What's up, Mike? How you doing tonight? How you doing?
How you doing? How you doing? What's that? I haven't had a pour in a few days. Sound like an alcoholic here. I haven't had it in a few days here. You gotta have it. But...
Got any more of those pours?
Yeah, so I'm excited to have a drink tonight with you, Brandon.
Yeah, man. How's Happy New Year, everybody? Right? This is outside of our first interview, which dropped earlier in the week with our guy Tyler Glasser over at Stranahan's Colorado Distillery and Whiskey. This is our first episode officially of 2023. So happy New Year.
We haven't talked baseball in a hot minute.
It's been since, I believe, December 20th since we put out some baseball stuff. So this one is going to be both part of that baseball and bourbon podcast, or bourbon and baseball podcast, as we'll go in that order today. Before we get going into everything, I do want to shout out a couple of our listeners, our viewers, our followers on Instagram. Right now, we've got a lot of people chiming in. Tanya, a big shout out to you. Thank you for your feedback. Same with Jerry, Whiskey Kid and His Peppers, Keith, New England Whiskey, and Isaac, who is always supportive. That is at Sippin' and Grillin' on Instagram. Big shout out to them. Just thank you for the feedback on our episodes. I know Lisa also chimed in. You got any more feedback that you've heard from?
No, you took that right there. I know. I've just see Jerry everywhere. He's part of Major League Bourbon Clubhouse as well. Yeah. I see him there posting. I see him commenting on our stuff. I see him sharing stuff. So Jerry's everywhere.
Yeah, and at Jay Campbell on Instagram, our guy, JC is as I like to call him, he's been really supportive as well. So thank you for listening, everybody. We've got a lot of other cool stuff coming up and down the pike, and hopefully we can bring you the best listening experience possible. With that said, we'd love to hear your reviews. If you're not one of those 5 that we just gave a shout out to, can you please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? Just let us know what you think, or you can reach out DM via Instagram, which a lot of you have also done as well. And last thing, subscribe to our YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, just hit that button right there at the bottom. It says subscribe to our channel, and we're hoping to get towards 100 by the end of February. So that's our goal. How about fingers crossed for that one? Let's get to 100. And if you're listening via Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please rate us, review us, but also don't forget to subscribe on there as well, because sometimes that might mean you're not going to see the podcast unless you have subscribed. So get to that. Second, the last thing before we head into the episode, T-shirts. We've got T-shirts now, if you haven't listened to previous episodes where we released it, but neither of us are wearing them today. But Barrels and Barrels, I'll post a picture on Instagram as this podcast drops, so it'll be up for about 24 hours if you want to see a picture. Chime in, let us know, and reach out, and we can get you a T-shirt for a price. As far as Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast, usually we know what we're going to be drinking, but it's a mystery. As Michael likes to say, it's poison.
It's a poison. So if this gets posted and you don't see another episode, you know what happened.
If it gets posted, I don't know if it does get posted. If it's poison, it might knock us out before we get it posted. But I don't think Daniel would do that. A big shout out to Daniel, who is at bourbon_hunt on Instagram. He sent us a mystery sample. I've got the sealed envelope right here. So we know it's sealed, so I can't look at it. Brand new one in his handwriting. Answer inside, it says. So with that said, let's crack her open, Michael. There's no real breakdown of the distillery yet, what it is. So I guess we could do our homework afterwards. I'm going to just do the full pour.
Hey, Brandon, can you open my bottle for me? It's a little tight.
Michael, you need to get back to the gym, man. Your shoulder has taken away all your
I'm
strength.
not allowed. I can do like lat raises and such, but that's all. I can't do any presses.
Oh, wow. Cinnamon right off the top. That's what I got on the notes.
I said shoulder presses,
Yeah. I was saying I took a sniff and I got cinnamon right off the top. Oaky cinnamon.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you got?
Can you get a proof off that smell at all? Does it smell hot?
This smells so familiar. It smells.
It smells so familiar.
No, you know how like. Man, I need to pull from something. I'm gonna pull from the Jepsons real quick to clean my palate.
Oh, pull like that. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Get some memory going on that palate there.
Well, I tell you what, it's not Jepson's 100, that's for sure. So for those of you listening in, and you'd like to follow us for more while we're sniffing and analyzing this mystery sample, head on over to Instagram. That is Barrels and Barrels Pod. Again, search at Barrels and Barrels Pod. I know a lot of you who are listening follow us there already, but if you're new here, we'd love to get you over there, interact. We're very good at returning messages, I think, and interacting with everybody. So, I mean, I try to get back to messages as quick as possible. But, yeah, so head on over there. Mike knows right off the bat. What do you got?
Yeah, it's something I'm not quite familiar. Like it's a fruit, but I don't recognize. I don't know if it's fig or date or something. But it's not a sweet tropical fruit that we've been getting out of stuff that we've been sampling lately, like Bourbon Vantage or the BRT. Usually those are like a darker fruit, where this is more of, I don't know what kind of fruit it is, but it's not tropical fruit. It's not a sweet fruit.
I get a dark chocolate.
A dark chocolate. Yeah, I can't pin my nose on what it is. It's fruity, but it's I want to say a drier fruit, if that makes sense. Or it's
Yeah,
not nutty.
I can get. I've got some walnut too. But there's the fruit.
Ooh, okay. I took a first sip there, and all of a sudden something clicks.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes familiar.
Oh,
I
it
think
tastes
my building-
familiar. It smells familiar. It tastes familiar. That's a
What?
warm one. Yeah, yeah. You were just making fun of me for saying it smelled familiar, so I'm saying it. Of course, it tastes familiar. It's whiskey. It's bourbon.
All right. I feel like we can nail down the distillery based on that palate there. What do you think?
Yeah. It's it's got a kick. It's got like I got like white pepper.
We don't know if this is a rye or is it a bourbon or anything. We just know
It just says
brown
Bourbon
water.
Hunt, Bourbon Hunt mystery sample on it. Let's look at the color. I'd say it's relatively dark. It's on the darker side.
Do you think it's finished?
I don't think so. It doesn't come
I don't
off.
think it's finished. I get like a malted barley, that rye
Yeah.
aftertaste. It's not a spicy rye, so I want to say it's a malted barley. But I don't
What do you
think
think
it's
the proof
finished.
is?
Ooh, the proof. What do you think?
Yeah, we both took a
I'd
sip.
say
At the
like-
same.
Yeah, sorry. I would say this is a rye. This is a rye.
I don't think so. I think it's a bourbon with a high rye mash bill. I find buttery up front, and then it becomes peppery towards the back end. It almost goes from like sweet to savory on the back end to me. The finish is good, but it's not too lingering to me.
I think this is about in the 100s.
I'd say anywhere between
107,
98 and 105 for me.
108, 105. I think it's a little higher than that.
I think it's just over 100.
Okay. I'm on. So that I'm in like the more towards 110, like 107, 108.
Okay, I'm going to go with 104. I think it's good.
Hold on.
He's
Hold
getting up. So I'm going to do the play-by-play. We're talking to a white wall behind Michael's microphone because Michael has walked away to go grab something. He had to go look at the proof at something. Do you know what it is?
Proof of something.
Do you have a guess at what it is? Don't tell me yet. Actually, what do you think of the finish?
So the finish. Well, hold on. Before I give it, I got a little more taste here. I get it's velvety. finish. But again, I get a rye finish. I think this is I don't think it's a high rye. I think this is a rye. I won't give you my guess, but my proofing idea is not what I think the proof does not match what bottle I think it is.
Okay. So then you're wrong one way or the other.
Right. So, tasting, I felt like it was like a 108 proof, 107. But what I'm thinking it doesn't match.
I think there's a little funk on the nose. Now that
because I get enough blind rye samples from
your boy,
my neighbor here. Yeah, I've tasted some ryes, and I feel like this lines up.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that riveting breakdown of everything we did, I do want to give a big thank you to Daniel again for that.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I want to ask you, Michael, on our Barrels and Barrels of Bourbon and Baseball podcast rating scale, which we have right now up on YouTube. You can see it. It goes from Hall of Famer at the top of the top. 1% of all players become Hall of Famers. So that's why no pours have actually been rated a Hall of Famer yet. All-Star, which is second, because you've got a few All-Stars here on your team. It's that go-to, the one you're looking for all the time, probably an allocated bottle, but it doesn't have to be. And then goes to everyday player, third on the list. It's a guy that you know that's consistently in your lineup. You can count on him day to day, not necessarily an everyday pour, but it is something that you will have at your bar every day and you wouldn't be opposed to going to every day. There's a bench player, right? They come into the game every once in a while, sometimes in the clutch, sometimes when you need them the most, but it's not an everyday. He's got the bat, and it's not an everyday player. And then the final thing is the DFA, where Michael takes the bat to you and says, "Get out of here! I'm breaking this bottle." So
give me this.
Yeah. So on that whole scale that we just listed off for our listeners, our viewers, you saw it on YouTube. Where do you rate this?
I firmly believe this is a rye, but this is a great rye. This is, for me, I would go back to this often. This is an everyday player for me. You made the lineup, son.
So what makes it, like, what part of it makes you think it's an everyday player? Like, what is your favorite part of it?
The combination of the sweet and that rye spice, but it's not spicy. That rye flavor is good, but it's not biting at you. And I think that's what makes ryes appreciated, is that rye flavor, but it's not, but when there's that bite that overpowers the flavor, just like kind of how I think Booker's is. The bite overpowers the flavor. And this doesn't have that.
See, you and I disagree on the Booker's thing.
Right.
But I agree with you that this doesn't take away from the flavor. It takes like a real sharp turn. It's like, to me, it's like I'm going down the street and then an immediate left turn halfway through the pour. It goes from sweet buttery up front to a slow savory burn on the back end of it. I'm going everyday player as well. I think that this is a pretty good pour. I would drink this quite a bit. I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it, on what I think it is. I know he's a huge Michter's guy, but I don't think he would go that route. I think he would stray away from that, even though he owns like every bottle of Michter's, knowing Daniel. So what is your guess?
So just because I went out and grabbed that the other night, I was thinking it was maybe a Midwinter's.
You think it's Midwinter's Night Stream?
I think it's because that was on my mind this last week. I went out and
but isn't that finished?
It is finished in port barrels.
Right. This doesn't give me.
It doesn't line up. It doesn't line up. But that's only like rye. I'm thinking there. It could be a Mitchers. Because the Mitchers I tried from my neighbor
Can you say that again, please?
Mitchers.
Michter's.
Michter's. The Michter's I tried from my neighbor, I did like the rye. It was toasted rye, I think. Do they have a toasted rye?
Yep.
Pretty sure they
do. Well, they did a couple. I think that was last year's
That's
release.
what this is Michter's.
Michter's. How can you, I've been making fun of Michael for this for a year, guys. So this is January 2023, and he still can't say Michter's. We're never going to get an invite to their distillery.
This is Michter's Toasted Rye.
And I believe that came in at a barrel strength. So that would mean that this is close to 110 then. Also, I wanted to point out, I'm drinking out of a new Glen today. My Bourbon Thieves Glen. So I got those
awesome.
Newly enshrined Bourbon Thieves member. I don't know. They just accepted, I guess, Bourbon Thieves member. So that's what I've got the Glen today. Man, I don't think he goes Michter's. I don't think he goes Michter's.
It's definitely rye. And I think that sweetness that we're talking about, how it does a 180, it's toasted. It's the toasted rye.
That would be a good guess. I'm not going to make a guess at what it was because I was totally off the...
It's a rye. It's a rye, baby.
I think it's a high rye bourbon.
All right.
Okay, for the moment of
what
truth.
You doing?
Well, I'm trying to think of what it would be or could be.
Here we go. And
can I get a drum roll, Michael?
I got my baseball bat in my hand, man.
This is a 2020 Michter's Toasted Rye at 107.6.
107.6. Let's go.
You said 110. So, Michael, over. You said 108.
Hold on.
You said 108. No. So, Jeopardy rules. You were over because you do not round the cents.
I said 107, 108.
But, yeah, I really like that. That was a good pour. So, thank you to Daniel. I'm going to show you the picture right there. 2020 Michter's Toasted Rye, 107.6 proof. It did have that toasted feeling on the back end.
Right, right. As soon as you said Michter's,
can you say that again, please?
No, I'm not going to.
Where's the T in that word?
Michter's.
No. Okay, folks. We're gonna do a little bit.
Hey, Brandon, don't tag them though.
Michter's. Like the Mick, like Mickey Mantle, Michter's. Michael, can you try Michter's?
I'm thinking of the Friends episode where Phoebe's trying to teach Joey French.
We. Can you finally say it?
Mitch.
Jesus Christ. I'm done. I'm walking away.
I'm trying my best out here, guys.
I don't know what you said, but I will hear it
when you edit
it, or when I edit it, actually. So as I untangle my headphones, I'm just going to talk into the mic and pretend like we're taking up time because we're really losing listeners right now, pal. Okay, what did you say?
I said, I'm from Alabama. I just drink it. I don't care how to say it.
All right. Well, with that said, everyday player for the 2020 Michter's Toasted Rye. Yeah, so good stuff there. To me, that was a 90-degree turn. Like,
right.
So it was a very good one. So thank you to Daniel.
Toasted ryes. Who else has a toasted rye? Be interested to compare.
Toasted rye. Yeah, we'll have to look at it. Nothing that just jumps off the... Everybody's toasting or finishing something nowadays, so there's got to be one out there.
Would you think this compares to Elijah Craig Toasted?
I think that's way sweeter through the entire thing. This has that, like, again, that 90-degree turn. Like, it goes from buttery sweet to, like, very...
Would you compare it to anything else?
No, I don't think you can compare this. I think this is better than the Michter's Toasted Bourbon, to be honest. I think the sample I had of that, this is way better. So, cheers. Good stuff there. Before we jump into baseball, staying on the bourbon topic, last time we recorded was December 20th. On the 21st, something happened. I went and I did something crazy.
Did you get any sleep? Yeah, did you get any sleep that night?
No. So, to paint the background, we talked about it on the last pod. I debated going down to Bardstown to go try to get the Old Fitz 19 because that was announced on the 20th of December that they were dropping a couple hundred bottles. You didn't know how much, so I hemmed and hawed, and I got out the door at 3:45, and that was after Michael and I stayed up editing our last podcast till about 12:45. So I got 3 hours of sleep.
You're welcome.
Well, I got up at 3:30, so I got less than 3 hours of sleep. Drove all the way to Bardstown. Had to get gas too because the car didn't have enough gas, of course. So then as I get there, I park literally in the first grassy spot I can find, and I run into line. I had to be about 400th in line or near there.
Were you scared when you got there and you saw how many people there were?
Yes, I was very nervous when I got there. Like, if anybody's been to Bardstown, we were in like the side lot of the whole building. So it wasn't, there's a parking lot right in front of the Heaven Hill Distillery where they have the truck parked. And that line wrapped, I was about the sixth wrap in the line. Like a Great America or a Six Flags roller coaster waiting line. I was like 6 wraps. So it was hard. And the people in line had said they heard that we were around 370, 375, maybe 400. I got there at 5:40. Met a couple of great dudes. 5:40 a.m. Left northern Kentucky. So it was about an hour and 50-minute drive. Sat with this sweet old lady who was out in front of me getting the bottle first, on whose birthday was that Friday.
Wow.
And the guys behind me came from Indy, AJ, and it was a good time. I had a blast in line, but the moment of truth came. So at 8 o'clock, they were going to start handing out wristbands. And I had heard that the week before they had more than 400 bottles of the Parkers because they dropped the Parkers the week before. And I was thinking, okay, they're probably going to have about the same. And the rumor was they had more. So I felt pretty good. And then they started handing out wristbands. And the line moved pretty quickly for that. They were handing out wristbands and then immediately selling the bottle once you got in the line and all that inside the building. So as we get close to the building at like 8:25, that's how long it took for my part of the line to get there. A guy walks out of the building and starts pointing at people and counting. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the last thing I need. And he gets to me and he points at me and he goes, 50. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the end of the line, folks.
Sweating. So what were those 5 people? The 5th guy back there, like, guys, like, please, please, please.
Yeah, he's like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? We got here. They got in line at 5:46. So if I was 6 minutes later, I would have not gotten a bottle. They ended up having 2 extra wristbands. So the guy who was 5th and 6th actually got a bottle. Yep, they stayed in line. The guy behind them was very disappointed. But there was still about 150 people behind me who went home empty-handed. But I did walk away with a Old Fitz 19. Very excited. That is like my white whale. So if you hadn't seen it on Instagram already, I posted a reel on that. But really excited.
So I'm excited for it because I don't know if you just made a big deal of it. The Old Fitz, what, 8 or 9 you have?
Yep,
or 6?
that was the one that I opened with you. The
right.
8, yeah.
And you loved that pour.
Yeah.
So for you to go get that 19, I feel it fits you because you called
Yeah.
and said your favorite pour after we had tried that.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for you. I think it fits you, and
so
you'll open it up when you retire, right?
Yeah, I'll have a story with it, and that's what's going to make it even better when I crack it open and pour it with my friends. So, whenever Michael decides he wants to come up to Kentucky, which might be in about 20 years, we might be able to crack it open. I'm just kidding. But that's the story. It was a very fun day, but it was a very long day, and I did jump out to Bardstown Bourbon Company. Also checked out a couple of the other distilleries around there, Preservation, and even drove on the campus of Willett. So we're just gonna have to go to Bardstown. Yeah, that's a very sober drive home. I had a few at Bardstown, but good stuff there. We're gonna have to check that out at BBC as well as.
It's allowed in Kentucky when you're driving through Kentucky, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be just like in Alabama. Sleeping with your sister. As far as going, roll tide. As far as the bourbon part of the podcast, again, thank you to Daniel. That was very good. I'm gonna have to save the rest. Actually,
is that our 3rd mystery sample or second?
Our second? It was our second. I'm gonna put that aside because I've been doing this rating system on Pix lately. The Pix app. I don't know if you've downloaded it yet.
I did do one.
John over at Dad's Drinking Bourbon has been part of this, so big shout out to Pix. They we're not affiliated in any means, but I really enjoy the app. You can just post pictures, you can post tastings, and it sent me an email today telling me what my flavor profile is. So the more you do that, I'm gonna add you, bro. You just got on it like 2 days ago.
I've done a review.
Well, I'll have to check it out. You didn't send me. You didn't add me. So it goes. Communication goes both ways there, Michael. Goes both ways. So I'm going to save that and do the picks review. I'm going to kill this Four Roses single barrel. So that's our first kill on the podcast.
Is that a 100 proofer there?
Yeah, single barrel 100 proofer.
There you go.
Warehouse JW. Barrel 2720 or 2720. So he just added me. Michael Burns just added me on Picks. So go check out Picks. Again, cool app. I think that it's a great spot for the whiskey fan because you can keep track of your pours. You can rate your pours. Looks like Michael did.
If you're tasting it and you don't know what you're picking up, it gives you options.
It gives you options. There are funny options like body odor. Did you see that one?
No.
But yeah, that's one. I think one of the noses. But oh yeah, this is way different. But
Four Roses has a distinct.
Yeah. So go check out Picks. As far as baseball, let's jump into it because we've got a lot to talk about here. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and we had the holiday season. Trivia first. So one of this one you should be potentially able to get. When Rich Hill made his major league let's read it.
Oh, let's do it.
When Rich Hill made his major league debut in relief on June 15th, 2005, who was the team's starting pitcher?
The opponent?
No. When he made his major league debut in relief on June 15th of 2005, who was the team's starting pitcher? Who did he debut for and who was the starting pitcher?
He debuted for the Chicago Cubs, and it was Matt Clement.
Good guess, because in 2005 he still would have been in the rotation. But it was the one, the only.
Don't say it.
Greg Maddux.
Oh, Greg Maddux. Okay. I was scared you were going to say Big Z.
No, he would have also been on that team. But that was a stud rotation that just didn't do a whole lot in 2005. The reason we bring up Rich Hill is Rich Hill. He's not the top of the charts when it comes to free agent signings, but he did sign to be with the 12th team he's pitched for. He gets 1 year, $8 million, at the age of 43 to pitch for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Now, he took some years off. You said it's his 12th team. He took some years off. How many years did he take off? And he's pitched for 12 teams?
Well, I think he was hurt for a lot of that time. And then didn't he go overseas or something like that to try to reclimate himself?
Right. He did not stick in the majors the whole time.
It looks like he was part of a team every year in the majors. So,
really?
Yeah, he's pitched in a game in every single season since 05.
I didn't realize that.
I know he's been hurt. He was hurt for a long time.
Was it the... Where did he also have his rejuvenation season? Was it with the Red
Oakland.
Sox?
I believe it was Oakland. No, he came back with the Red Sox for a half a season. He pitched 4 games, and he was a stud. But the year he came back was 2016 with Oakland Athletics. He had a 2.12 ERA over 20 starts. He was 12-5. So that's when he really came back.
Him being on Oakland.
Yeah, he got traded to the Dodgers that year. That was the year that he got traded to the Dodgers and the Cubs played in the NLCS.
Oh.
Yeah, and came back. So
I still have a Vine. What was the magazine called for the Cubs? Vine.
Yeah. In the I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
they would talk about it during every broadcast.
Rich Hill, rookie pitching.
Mm-hmm.
I know
he was
that magazine.
That curveball. Curveball. So the reason I bring up Rich Hill, he signed that 1 year, $8 million deal. He's got the best nickname in sports. The best.
Oh,
do you know what
Rick?
it is? Nope. Do you know what it is?
I don't.
The best is listening to... I think it was probably the funniest minute and a half of TV broadcasting I've ever heard. It was when it was the Javi Baez stole first base game against the Pirates. JD said it, and this was the first time I heard the nickname. Rich Hill's nickname is Dick Mountain. Do you
Why?
get it? Richard shortens to
Dick
Dick,
Mountain.
and Hill
Got it.
is a mountain. So Dick Mountain, which is the funniest nickname
You
in
know
sports.
that comes out. That's the kind of stuff that comes out of men's clubhouses.
Yes,
Baseball
100%.
clubhouses.
But totally hilarious. I'm gonna have to find that clip. It was the game that Javi Baez stole first base. Do you remember
Against the
that?
Pirates. Yep.
Again, it was like July of 2020. I think it was 2021. Yeah, because it was Boog Shambi's first year with the Cubs. But yeah, he stole first base. Very funny video. But earlier in that game, there's a guy sitting naked, or it looked like he was sitting naked in the stands, and Jim DeShaves was just like, "Whoa!" And then he drops the Dick Mountain, and then it goes to another shot of the guy, and then he starts talking about the guy looking like he's naked again. So it was like the greatest 2 minutes in MLB or even just like sporting broadcast history. Like that 2 minutes was the funniest thing ever. But so he was part of the flurry of free agents, not necessarily huge free agents to sign, but there is one big one, Michael. It's been the one, and this actually happened on the 21st. The last podcast, he was still on the Giants, and then we went to bed. I woke up that morning to head to Bardstown, and I saw that the Mets had signed him, and he's now with the Mets. Carlos Correa
He's now with the who?
Carlos Correa is now officially with the Minnesota Twins.
Yes.
Like it went official today. 6 years, $200 million. What's your thoughts right away?
I guess the Mets know what they had in him last year, health-wise. I'm surprised other teams didn't join in on that. I think you mentioned that you commented that comment on Facebook there on a post that more teams would have been very interested on that short-term deal, but they did give him a lot of options. I don't know. I feel like it was a cop-out for him. It was to kind of save face. He went to the Giants, got money. He went to the Mets, got money, and then, oh crap, the Mets don't want me either.
Yeah.
Who will take me back? Oh, my mom. The team I was with last.
I mean, the Twins still offered him $150 million less than what he was making from the Giants with his first original contract, and it's 7 years less. Now, as you mentioned, there are some options. It could take you up to 10 years, and I think I saw around $280 million or $285.
270, because it's less than
Passan's
Xander.
at 270, but I think it makes it 285 if he hits different vesting portions within that contract. So it's
now, how
definitely,
do you feel?
Yeah. I mean, you got to feel crappy about yourself. But what's crazy is he's going to be 33 at the end of this deal, so that's not old in baseball terms. So he's going to get another contract unless he wants to stick with the Twins. I do know that the Mets were trying to throw in some like oddball, and that's why the contract negotiations took 3 weeks. I think they were trying to throw in some oddball, like fillers. Like if you don't hit
health options.
Yeah, health options. They can't technically go with health options because it's illegal via the collective bargaining agreement, but the way that they were doing it was very fishy. And I think that they had set the bar a little too high on a couple of those. But the old team that Carlos Correa had signed with made two mediocre moves. I don't think that they're changing your team by any chance from a non-playoff team to a contender, but Michael Conforto goes to the Giants on a 2-year, $36 million deal. And then Taylor Rogers, the left-handed reliever who had pitched with the Twins and the Brewers, he heads over there as well on a 3-year, $33 million deal.
Pitched alongside his brother.
Yeah, so the twin brothers, Taylor, and is it Tyler?
Yep.
Rogers for the Giants. Now, that deal is a little... I think Rogers has been mediocre over the last couple of years. It's been like a 3-5 year range.
He started out last year hot. He was the hottest closer in baseball for the Padres, right? Mm-hmm. And then they sent him the hottest closer. I mean, he was putting out 3 saves a week. And then also the trade deadline, they shipped him.
Yeah, and they sent him to the Brewers.
Right.
And
so to pay somebody who's not the definite closer, because reports I'm seeing is the Giants already have a bona fide closer. Well, I say bona fide, but a closer designated. And now here comes, they're going to pay a relief pitcher $11 million a year?
Yeah. For 3 years. And I mean, he's got closing ability, but I just don't see it to where.
He struggled with the Brewers too.
Yep. Like Camilo Duvall, I think, is their designated closer right now.
Yes.
But yeah, he struggled with the Brewers. Him and his brother are on the same team now, though. So I don't know. Like his last 2 years, he pitched 100 innings and had an ERA in the high 3s and low 4s combined. So
mediocre.
That's a lot.
Stole your word there.
That's a lot of mediocrity. That's a lot of money for a guy who's not going to be your closer, especially with some of the deals that have been signed already. From there, staying in that division, Evan Longoria continues to play into his 70s at 1 year, $4 million deal. I loved Evan Longoria when he was with the Rays, and then he just kind of faded away as he made his way to San Fran and hasn't really been much since then.
That's what the Rays do. They know when to cut, when to part ways with guys.
Not a bad deal I think the Diamondbacks could be better this year for sure.
They've got some studs coming up through the system.
Yeah, so they'll be a team to watch. I don't think that they're going to contend between the Padres and the Dodgers, but they're going to make some noise. And with the Giants in that division, there's going to be, I think it's a clear 1-2, Dodgers, Padres, excuse me, then the Giants, Diamondbacks, and I'd say the Rockies are probably dead in that division at this point. They haven't done anything this year.
No, they have fun guys to watch. So the Diamondbacks have what writers are saying is unanimous rookie of the year right now in Corbin Carroll. Dude's got speed, dude's got power. The Giants are making some moves, but then the Rockies have what they're hoping for is their shortstop of the future. They've got I think an outfielder coming in Zach Veen.
Okay.
So he's a top 10 overall prospect.
You're the prospect guy.
So they have a top overall. So Veen, an outfielder, and shortstop Tovar are both like top 20 overall prospects in all of baseball. So they've got two guys on both sides of the field who help. But the Dodgers and Padres have pieces at every position of the field. So
yeah. It's going to be hard to compete in that division with the Padres and the Dodgers where they are right now. But the Giants did have a pretty breakout year 2 years ago in 2021 when they made it to the playoffs. So
they went from last to 100-something wins.
Yeah. And they were in first place for a long time in the league. So that'll be an interesting watch, especially with Kapler back at the helm. He was the one who kind of turned things around for him. So the NL West, I'm just going to say it's a two-headed race, but even with these moves, I don't think the Giants or the Diamondbacks made much headway. Let's move to the NL Central. Wade Miley, former Cub, former Red, former everybody. He did play for the Diamondbacks as well as the Red Sox as well. 1 year, $4.5 million to the Brewers. Not a bad arm. That's a depth piece. I thought he was good at times when he pitched for the Cubs and even the Reds. Threw a no-hitter for the Reds in 2021. He's got good stuff. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy over the last couple of years.
Right, and that's where he missed last year for the Cubs.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be healthy in June or something, early on, and it just kept getting kicked down the road.
When he came back, he was good, and then he got hurt again.
Is he a lefty?
Left-handed. He's not a huge velocity guy. He's just hit your spots, throw the right pitches, and sequencing is great. So I don't think that makes the Brewers insanely better, but it's a great depth piece, and that's I think it's going to be a sneaky. He's 36, so he's on the elder part of his career. Still not a bad deal. Another NL Central deal, Will Myers, who probably will be the DH or even play some outfield in Cincinnati. So I'll get to see him up close and personal this year. He signs a 1 year, $7.5 million deal, leaving the Padres. He's also played with the Rays, and I believe he was part of the Royals organization to start out. He was part of that James Shields trade, I believe. Which sent Shields
from the Rays to
the Royals, because Shields was part of that pitching staff for a while.
And then where did Shields go after that?
The White Sox. No, he went to the Padres in 2015, and then to the White Sox.
And who
for
was
Tatis.
part of that trade?
Yes.
Yep.
I'll connect the dots.
What a trade.
So,
what a trade.
Will Myers is in Cincinnati. Staying in the NL Central, this one's closer to Michael and I's hearts. Eric Hosmer signs with the Cubs. So he's going to get the league minimum. The Cubs are not going to have to pay him much because the Padres are still paying him $39 million over the next 3 years after trading him to the Red Sox late last year. I think this is an underrated move for the Cubs. They needed contact. They've been such a swing and miss team over the last couple of years. Hosmer does put the ball in play. His power numbers aren't as good as they used to be earlier in his career. And I don't know if you know this. If you're watching on YouTube,
oh, look at there.
I've got my Eric Hosmer Omaha Storm Chasers jersey, which is the AAA affiliate of the Kansas City Royals. I lived in South Dakota, so I was close to the Omaha team there, which are the Omaha Storm Chasers. As a meteorologist, I figured I had to get a shirt.
You had to.
But in 2011, when I went storm chasing, literally on a storm chase for school in the summer of 2011, we went to a Storm Chasers game, and that was right after Hosmer got called up. Do you remember Hosmer's rookie year? He went ape. Like, he went just and destroyed. He was
That was
raking.
11?
2011. He had got called up. Let me pull up the statistics, but I swear he hit like 20-plus home runs in his rookie year. And they still had a jersey in the pro shop, and I was like, I have to get it.
So and Moustakas came up in the same year then.
Yeah, they were part of the core.
11?
So 2011, Hosmer hit 19 home runs in 128 games and batted .293. He got third in the Rookie of the Year voting that year. But he's a 4-time Gold Glover. He's finished in the top 25 of the MVP twice. He's an all-star. He's not been that since 2017, which was his, as we talked earlier in the previous pod. But he's a consistent, put the bat on the ball. On base percentage between 330. So the last 3 years, he's gone 333, 337, and 334 for an on-base percentage. That's consistent.
And the Cubs aren't signing him to be a impact player necessarily.
No.
To bat 1 through 4. They're just he's gonna platoon with Matt Mervis when he gets the opportunity.
I think he'll probably be more with Patrick Wisdom platooning
to start
at first
out.
base. Yeah. So,
True, because they got Morel over at third as well to play.
Yeah.
Morel's not a great defensive third baseman, but hey, it's been an awesome.
You need him in the lineup. You need him he's a catalyst in the lineup. And on top of that, another small deal for the Cubs. They lost Wilson Contreras to the Cardinals, so Tucker Barnhart, former Red, 2-year deal, $6.5 million to the Cubs to be, I think he's the backup catcher technically because Yan Gomes is the starter. But a lot of the projections I see have Tucker Barnhart in the lineup. I know he's a Gold Glove catcher, which is going to be great. And from what I've heard, he's great to work with for pitchers. So that pitching staff, the center of the Cubs defense from catcher to second and shortstop with Nico and Dansby and to center field with Cody Bellinger could be some of the best up the middle defense in the game.
Absolutely. It's going to be it's an underrated because Nico is not a big name. He didn't get a lot of attention being on the Cubs, but that dude hits line drives. Is a great defensive shortstop. Whenever Javi went down and Nico got called up late, he has not gotten attention because he's been on a 4th, 5th place team.
Right.
In his time.
Well, he was a finalist for Gold Glove at second base in the COVID-shortened season, so he's got time at second base. He was a very good and underrated shortstop last year, so I think it's only going to make them move better with Dansby on the other side, who won the Gold Glove last year, I believe, at shortstop. Another, you got more on the Cubs?
I was going to say Nico. It was only drafted in 2019 and came up a year later. Yeah. So
he came up the year he was drafted. No, he got drafted in 18 because he came up in 19 at the end of the season, and then 2020 he started all the games. 2018 he got drafted and he got hurt right away too. I think he hurt his wrist. But very just low-key signings, not spending a whole lot of money for the Cubs, but I think that they got 2 decent veteran presences in their lineup. It makes the team better. It doesn't make them a World Series contender by any means, but I think it makes them better, and I think they can compete in the division with the lineup that they'll put there every day. A team that probably won't is the Nationals, and they signed
Probably won't.
probably won't. They signed Dom Smith to a 1-year, $2 million reclamation project. He was with the Mets. He got non-tendered, and you can see most teams thought the same thing. At 1 year, $2 million, that's not a whole lot of money, opposed to Cody Bellinger, who got 1 year, 17. So Dom Smith, I don't think that really moves the needle. He does get $2 million in incentives. I'm not going to run through a ton of these with a lot of depth, but Gene Segura goes to the Miami Marlins, 2 years, $17 million. He was probably the best second baseman on the market.
And so that's interesting. So that coincides with another move that happened today, because they have Jazz Chisholm, who was playing second base for him, and Miguel Rojas was at shortstop. And so now they've got Gene to play second, which would have pushed Jazz to play shortstop with Miguel. But Miguel, as we saw today on January 11th, was traded to the Dodgers for a Dodgers prospect.
Okay, so there's more depth for the Dodgers. So that's where Jean will be fitting in, and that just scoots Chaz, right?
Jazz
Chisholm. Yep, that's right. Stud.
No.
Yeah, it's Jazz. Chisholm over to shortstop. And then Johnny Cueto signs with the Marlins as well. He's 37 years old. So
they've got some pitching.
They do. I just don't think Cueto pitched well with the White Sox, but he was on the minor league deal with the White Sox. This is a major league deal, so he earned himself some money. He earned himself $8.5 million. I don't think he's a top 3 starter by any means, but he adds depth to that rotation with Alcantara, who finished as the Cy Young Award winner. I think you got Sixto Sanchez coming back in that rotation this year as well. You hope. And then Pablo Lopez.
Edward Cabrera. Yep, Pablo Lopez. Edward Cabrera. They've got first-round pick Braxton Garrett coming. Former first-round pick Jesus Luzardo. Another first-round pick, Max Meyer. I mean, Trevor Rogers. These guys are loaded at talent for starting pitcher. And that's where the rumors are that they're ready to let one go to get back an impact position player.
Right. So we'll see. And I've heard Pablo Lopez is the one that they've been dangling out there to most teams. But we'll see if that ends up being the case. But that division, man, the Marlins adding the Braves, the only team in that division that's not going to win is probably the Nationals, I would say. Yeah. But the Marlins, they've got a new manager with Skip Schumacher, so it'll be interesting to see how they react. He's a younger, new generation kind of manager. Will that style work with the younger player? I still think the Marlins are 4th in that division behind the 3-headed monster, which is going to be the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies, who were just in the World Series. And the Phillies have made another addition as well when it comes to that. They've made a couple additions, and we'll get there in a second.
Right.
Going back to the other side, the other M's, AJ Pollock signs to be outfielder for the Mariners, 1 year, $7 million. You have the outfielders there. What are your thoughts on that Mariners outfield?
So they added Teoscar early in the offseason. They've got Rookie of the Year and MVP candidate J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez, who should continue to just be better. He's looking like a Mike Trout type player. Speed, power, bat, has it all. Kelenic, who was supposed to be, again, a stud, who struggled out the gate, got sent back down. I think it's a great protection move for Kelenic. They don't have to, if Kelenic can't put it back together, they don't have to rely on him. Pollock, if you go back to, I want to say 2000.
How do you say his name?
Pollock?
Pollock, like the fish.
So you know why I say Pollock? It's from Space Jam. Michael Jordan's assistant. Hey, Pollock.
AJ Pollock.
AJ Pollock.
We're going to have to make this explicit. We're going to make some Polish people a little upset here, Michael. If you're Polish, we apologize.
In the
this does not support our views.
Harper was a free agent. Pollock was the consolation prize to Bryce Harper.
Pollock. Have you ever heard? Okay, so AJ Pollock likes to drink Michter's whiskey. Can you say that?
Pollock likes to drink Michter's whiskey. So AJ Pollock He was a stud with the Diamondbacks till I think he broke his wrist
Well, he had a
sliding
home plate.
home.
A home plate collision. I think broke.
I mean, I think the dude was batting 340, hitting home runs.
I think he was on the top of an MVP season when that happened, and then he came back, and I think he hurt himself slipping on home plate or something like
He's
that.
never been the same. He's never been healthy since. And so, even I thought that when the White Sox signed him cheap last year, I thought that was a great.
They got him in a
signing
trade.
that-
They got him in a trade. That was the Craig Kimbrell trade. So they traded Kimbrell to the Dodgers, and Pollock came from the Dodgers for his final year.
Oh,
But what
okay.
this tells me is, I don't think he likes. I don't think that the White Sox have a good clubhouse. That's what this tells me, because AJ was part of the White Sox, and he turned down a $13 million option to play this
Right.
year with the White Sox. Now, he did get a $5 million buyout for that. It was $13 million or $5 million buyout. So this deal technically is $12 million, but he's making less money than he would have made. So he walked away from $1 million basically, which
Right.
tells me that he doesn't believe in that White Sox team. So he goes to the Mariners, and like you said, with Kelenic, he was the top prospect. He was ahead of J-Rod, wasn't he?
He was when the beginning of last season, he was more highly regarded than J-Rod.
Right. So the talent and the prospect status is there. It's just whether he's able to put it together. But like you said, it's kind of a security blanket. Pollock's not going to be healthy the whole year. You know it. But also it tells them that they could slowly get Kelenic into the lineup. And that team was already great last year. They got swept by the Astros, but they took those Astros to the brink in all three of those games, and it could have been a 3-0 series sweep in the Mariners side.
Right.
The Astros have some. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder if Kelenic, Ian Happ came out recently and said how once he finally got that everyday role, it didn't have to focus on, I got a chance today, I'm going to play today.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't do well, I'm not going to get another shot in the lineup. I'm going to get benched. So I wonder if that could help Kelenic not having to worry about having to perform. And maybe that's what it is. AJ Poll.
Yeah. We're gonna have to edit this out. AJ Pollock.
AJ Pollock is
like the fish. He's
like you said, security blanket.
Yeah. Very good. You said it first. Staying in that division, the Mariners, a team that has been very aggressive, especially when it comes to the rotation. They added another arm. Nathan Eovaldi goes to the Rangers on a 2-year, $34 million deal. So that rotation.
How many star pitchers have they signed?
They have DeGrom, Nathan Eovaldi. They have John Gray, who was a very highly sought-after prospect. He was the third overall pick in the draft to the Rockies. Martin Perez and Jake Odorizzi, and then Andrew Heaney, who is a great left-hander who was with the Dodgers. So that's 6. I mean, Odorizzi is the odd man out now.
Dane Dunning.
That's
7.
Yep. So the depth in that rotation just went even deeper. I don't think Evaldi's top 2. I don't even know if he's a 3. But you've got a very decent rotation there. If you go DeGrom, Perez, Gray, Heaney, and then Eovaldi, I mean, that's going to be a tough rotation to beat on a day-to-day basis.
And they're ready. If one of those guys isn't performing, they have 3, and we've posted about it before, 3 studs. Cole Wynn's already on the 40-man roster. He's he was a first-round pick, 2018 or 19. And then another guy that the Mets let go off of medical, Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. They're both I believe they could be called up this year and make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 guys.
They've got the depth. So
even Spencer Howard. I'm seeing him on the roster now for the Rangers on their website. Spencer Howard, he was a Philly stud coming up through their system. He had a few, maybe half a season where he was really good, but he was highly regarded as well.
So the Rangers rotation is very deep all of a sudden, and it's going to make I think it's going to make that a 3-headed monster in that division, because I still think the Angels are far back, and then you look at the other teams in that division with the Athletics, who are just continuing to sell off. The A's are going to be crummy for a couple of years here, but the Mariners, the Astros, and the Rangers are the three-headed monster in that division. It's almost like the NL East and the AL East, for that matter.
Right.
Which has been
who's the bottom team in the AL East?
The Red Sox, in my mind, and that's where I was going next, because the Red Sox, instead of signing Nathan Eovaldi, signed Corey Kluber for a 1-year, $10 million deal. Not a terrible deal for Kluber, but he's on the back end of his career. This is going to be his third AL East team in, I think, 3 years. He's pitched for the Rays. He's pitched for the Yankees. He's pitched in Texas. He's now going to the Red Sox. What are the Red Sox doing? I feel like they are.
What is Devers doing?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. What are the Red Sox doing? I don't feel like there's a direction. Hein Bloom, I think, is the GM there. I don't feel like he's got a solid direct. I feel like it's just like reaction rather than proactive
planning.
Right.
Are you building a team, or are you trying to compete? You can't do both. You can't build and compete.
Right. So they signed Kluber. I would have taken Eovaldi over Kluber, but hey. It is what
the
it
Red
is.
Sox ownership is after a soccer team, I'm pretty sure.
Well, no, they already own Chelsea. No, not Chelsea.
Do?
They already own a soccer team, and they own the Pittsburgh Penguins. Chelsea was the one who was up, and the Cubs were trying to get by them.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox traded Mookie for Jeter Downs, and they just let him go for nothing, and it's a waivers. And I think it says something that when the last place team, or close to either, I think the Nationals were the number 2 team, the Pirates number 1. I could be mistaken. When they claim him for nothing.
Right.
I think you mess up when the bottom team immediately grabs that waiver.
Yeah. So, what are the Red Sox doing? That's the big question. And then the last one I have on our list is Craig Kimbrell finds a new home with the Philadelphia Phillies. 1-year, $8 million deal. I thought it was more than that. Maybe I wrote the wrong numbers for Kluber and Kimbrell. Maybe those are flip-flopped. I thought Kimbrell got 10 years with the Phillies. That's an error on my part.
10 years?
Yeah, 10
it's
mil.
$10 million. Yep.
So I
guaranteed $10 million in Phillies.
So Kimbrell to the Phillies on a 1-year, $10 million deal. And that's bolstering the bullpen. The weakness for the Phillies in the playoffs was that bullpen. It wasn't their starters. It was their pen. And not only do they get Kimbrell, but they also get probably the best left-handed pitcher out there that was available with Gregory Soto from the Tigers. They traded for him and Cody Clemens. Yes, Roger Clemens' son.
Is it?
Gregory Soto was the closer for the Tigers last year, I believe.
He was, and he was very good. He was pretty good for a bad team.
Yeah, so you've got 2 closers that you just signed on top of what you had in the postseason. Eflin did walk away, and so did David Robertson, so those kind of fill those positions. But still, that makes the Phillies team even better in that division, like we mentioned.
That's like the Braves did a few years ago. They had like 3 former closers.
Right.
They signed closer after closer after closer, and it worked. They won the World Series. I think that's what the Phillies are doing here with Robertson, Kimbrell, Soto. Who else? They got plenty of guys.
So we'll have to watch how that all develops. But that Phillies trade Gregory Soto and Cody Clemens, which is the son of Roger Clemens, heading to Philly, and the Tigers get Matt Vierling, Nick Mattoon, or is it Matten? I think it's Nick Matten, who was playing in the playoffs, and then a catcher, Donnie Sands. I think it's Vierling and Matten, who I'm thinking of Matt Merton, and then a platoon.
Matt Merton, maybe.
Yeah, Nick Matten, who's a shortstop, and he's kind of without a position now that they've signed Trey Turner, and they're going to move. Who's over there? Long hair, Stott nuts.
Bryson Stott.
Bryson Stott, over to second.
That's another great middle infield right there defensively. We were talking about the Cubs, Turner and Stott. Stott was a great defensive shortstop.
Yep, he was. So it was going to only get better for that defense, especially with Turner's speed. So the Phillies have got better. The Diamondbacks and the Jays get together on a trade, as we're talking trades. Arizona sends Dalton Varsho, who was listed as a catcher, but he's an outfielder. He could be whatever you want him to be honest. He was a great player for the Diamondbacks.
He's an athlete.
He's an athlete. He heads to the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Diamondbacks get the younger of the Gurriel brothers, Louis Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno. It was weird that Toronto traded for a catcher because they had a depth of catchers. So I'm assuming Varsho is going to be playing outfield.
Traded with Teoscar. Interesting, because Moreno was a top prospect, catching prospect for them.
Yeah.
So they had
Kirk. Moreno, they had Kirk, and they had another guy on the team. I can't remember it.
Is Jansen still there? Is it Danny Jansen?
Yep, that's who it was. So they've got 3 catchers with Varsho, but Varsho's probably going to be playing more outfield. I think that improves both teams. I think the Diamondbacks get better players at around the infield, and as you mentioned earlier,
I loved this trade. Not because of the moves, but there is a fan account. I don't think it's Gurriel's official account, and I shared this with you, Brandon.
Yeah.
I think it's a fan account. Gurriel Jr. fan account tweeted when they saw that they were getting Varsho, and they were pumped. They said, "Yes, I don't care what we give up. This improves our team." And then it was released that Gurriel Jr. was part of that package going the other way, and it was, oh no.
Total letdown, right? Like, so excited, and then it's like your favorite player is part of the trade, and now you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But I think that makes both teams better. We're getting back to the Red Sox real quick. What the hell are they doing? That's the question. 2 things happened this past 7 days. Rafael Devers signed an extension to stay with the Red Sox. It's an 11-year, $331 million deal. So basically, it's a 10-year, $320 million extension because he was already making $21 million for this year through arbitration. So they basically just tacked on 10 and 32 every year. Very good move for the Red Sox. It keeps him because there was a lot of rumors flying around that they weren't going to be able to re-sign him.
They had to. They had to sign him.
Especially with the news that came out yesterday. Trevor Story undergoing, was it elbow or shoulder surgery?
It's elbow. It's not Tommy John, but it's a like halfway of Tommy John. They're trying to just piece it together rather than actually doing full Tommy John. So he's out minimum 4, maximum 9. I've seen the 4 to 6. I've also seen, hey, it could be 9 as well.
So they can't plan to have him on the team. Part of me goes, why is he having the surgery now? Because this was an issue last year, was it not?
Mm-hmm. And so there was one of the baseball analysts tweeted out that Story knew he was going to have this, but he didn't know. He was trying to, delay it as much as he could. And so it just kind of poor timing if Story did choose this. But then Kike Hernandez retweeted it and said, that's a load of crap. That Story's not playing it that way. But so now they have Kike Hernandez, who hasn't played shortstop. He's not a prime caliber shortstop. They have no middle infield now.
Yeah, so that team is depleted, and that's why I said, what the hell are the Red Sox doing? That's the big question. Moving on from there, the other big story, and probably the biggest free agent on the market now, Trevor Bauer. His suspension had been reduced, and he immediately became eligible, and then the Dodgers DFA'd him. And as you've heard, and as you know, what a DFA means, it means he got kicked off the team. And we tell you that with our Barrels and Barrels Bourbon and Baseball podcast rating scale. So Bauer, he's on the market. Do you think anybody's going to sign him?
I think so, but it's kind of a crappy situation. It's like Kareem Hunt in the NFL. He was for domestic abuse. Oh, you can't have a player playing your team like that. The Chiefs have to cut him. So they cut him, but then someone else signed him. So it's an awkward situation. I think Bauer would have value. Even though he's been off, he's one of those guys who studies himself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a big market team could sign him just because of their fan base a little bit and save face. But I think a middle tier team could. Who would sign him and get praise for it? The freaking St. Louis Cardinals.
Probably.
No, the St. Louis Cardinals. And he would be a freaking stud. He'd sign for like nothing.
Well, it's signed for the major league minimum because the Dodgers owe, I think, like $25 million on his deal. So it's going to be similar to Hosmer, or wherever he signs is going to. And that's why I think the Rays might be a team that he slides to because it's under the radar. It's a good team, and the Rays don't have to pay
They
money.
have,
Right,
and they don't have a fan base.
Right, and they don't have to pay money. So that's like a perfect spot for him to slide in. The Orioles might be a sneaky good one. A 1-year deal, get a stud pitcher in your rotation, because they need pitching. The Orioles need pitching, right?
They're on the fringe. They've got 2 studs coming.
But
Grayson
they need
Rodriguez
it now,
and DL,
right.
And
they need it now, and I think with the additions that they had from the minor leagues with Adley last year, and then who's that shortstop?
Gunnar Henderson.
That's right. Who is by far the best guy out there, prospect-wise, they say. You need pitching, and that would be a buy low. And if your team doesn't look good, and Bauer has reclaimed himself through that 3.5 month season, trade him and get more prospects.
Orioles fans, they haven't had a good team since 2014. I don't think they care. If they can get anything that improves their team, they're for it.
Right. So those would be 2 teams, especially in that AL East, which I don't think the Yankees are a juggernaut, and I think
I don't think any team is a juggernaut in that.
I think the Blue Jays are the best of the bunch right now. The Rays or the Orioles, especially with the buy low, 700,000 or whatever major league minimum is. I think it's right about. There's like a couple decimals in there, but that would be a team or 2 teams that I think would like to try to sign him. Good call on the Cardinals; they would totally do that too.
They would and get praise for it.
Yeah, somehow, some way. So I'll run through a couple of free agents. There's not much left. It's kind of the scrap heap. Nelson Cruz at DH, Trey Mancini, Yuli Gurriel at first base, and Miguel Sano. Elvis Andrus at middle infield. I just kind of lumped them all together. Iglesias over at shortstop. Not Rysel. Rysel is the closer who's on the Braves.
Iglesias.
Jose Iglesias, who was on the Tigers for the longest time. Very good glove, just not much with the bat. Marwin Gonzalez, Didi Gregorius, Cesar Hernandez, Ruffendoder or Roofned? Rugned. Odor.
Look at me correcting.
Yeah, there you go. Harrison at second, Josh Harrison, and then Mike Moustakas, who was recently released by the Reds. Outfield, I think that's where your best talent probably still resides, between Duvall, Profar, Peralta, Tommy Pham, and Grossman. And then catcher, Gary Sanchez, Alfaro, that's Jorge Alfaro, and then Roberto Perez. And starting pitcher, we talked on Bauer. Sounds like Greinke's going back to the Royals. That's what the rumor is. Probably just on a comfort level. Mike Minor, but Michael Wacha is probably your best arm available. Dylan Bundy is a reclamation project.
Dylan Bundy would be right there, yeah.
And then relievers.
Same thing with Pineda.
Yeah, and Pineda there too. But Aroldis Chapman, the rumor is Miami. And then Michael Fulmer, who's probably the best relief arm out there, along with Andrew Chafin, who's the best left-hander. Sure. Danny Duffy's still out there, Garrett Richards, and then Matt Moore, who was a very good. He hasn't signed anywhere yet, has he?
No. So how about this, Brandon? How about this? Look at that team you just listed off. That turn that into an expansion team. That team is better than the Oakland A's.
Probably better than the Pirates too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe the
Royals.
Royals.
Better than 2 teams.
Maybe the Royals. Yeah, I would say maybe better than the Rockies too. So there's 4.
Yeah.
That's about it though. But still, yeah. So
that's enough team, right? That's enough players right there too.
There's talent out there, especially on the cheaper side. So teams are going to use these as depth. I think Duvall would be a great pickup, especially for a team looking for a 4th outfielder. You've got Elvis Andrus, who could probably be an everyday starting second baseman or shortstop for a team. Mm-hmm. And then, Fulmer, Chafin, or Matt Moore would be great pickups for your bullpen. So there's still a lot of talent left. It'll be interesting. We are 33 days away from spring training. Can you believe it? February 14th is the earliest report date that I've been able to find. Which was the Tampa Rays. I'm sure we'll have a couple more coming out, but we are just about a month away. So baseball stuff's really going to start to ramp up. We've got a lot of bourbon stuff ramping up. We've got a lot of cool things coming on the way. Another couple of interviews to talk about. Michael and I may be making a trip as well here, hopefully.
We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship.
The Huntsville rocket ship, Saturn V. Are we going on the trip?
No, no.
That's my favorite rocket ship.
It's Little Einsteins.
Is it
So if someone's listening to this still and can agree with me that they knew what that was, just let us know.
I don't know if you're saying it right because I can't trust you after a Pollock and mixtures. So I don't know. But that has been another episode of Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. We do have a lot coming down the line here. I know Michael and I are really excited from what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. Look out for that.
Baseball season.
Yeah, baseball season. We're going to have a Bourbon 101 episode coming up here within the next couple of weeks, talking those of you who don't know much about whiskey, don't know much about bourbon, the ABCDEFGs of bourbon, as well as breaking down what you may want to look for or start for with a bourbon. More whiskey and bourbon reviews, which we've had a lot of over the last couple of weeks. I think next week's episode we'll be talking about the MLB rule changes, Michael. Like, there are a couple of big ones coming up next year that are going to impact the game big time. I think they're going to impact them for the good, but we'll talk about that next week. Another interview, which is secret to you guys, but Michael and I already know who it is. I think you guys are going to love this one. It's going to impact both the baseball and the bourbon community. And then we've got more about us, right? At some point, you're going to learn more about Michael and I. What makes us baseball fans? What makes us Cubs fans? What got us into the game?
What makes us bourbon fans?
Yeah, I had a lot more bottles this week, and I told myself I was not going to buy in January, and I've already got 4 in 3 days. You bought 4 in 1 day. You bought 5 in 1 day. In one visit.
I did buy 5 in 1 day. 4 in 1 visit.
So
we'll for friends, though.
And then the World Baseball Classic is this year as well. So we'll have more on that. And don't forget, Michael and I are probably going to do a meetup here soon. So we'll probably have I don't know, it'll be live to us, but we'll actually be in the same room together for the first time in about a year. So that'll be really cool. I'm excited for that, man.
Yeah, I haven't seen you since you settled down, since you left. Since you moved to Kentucky.
I moved to the better state where the Wellers are.
But you're not even in Weller. You technically don't.
I work in Weller Country. So I grabbed another OWA today. So that's what you can watch for. You can find us on the good old Instagram. They call it the gram these days. At Barrels and Barrels Pod. Michael, you're on Instagram. Where can we find you?
I am at BNB_Burns. If you search BNB_, I'll probably pop up for you.
Yeah, probably. But it's the reverse on Twitter. Just type in BNB_Burns, but it's Burns BNB, I believe, on Twitter. Because every time I try to. But
about that right now.
You can find me at whiskey_weather, which is right at the top of both of our heads here on the old YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe there. You can also find us on YouTube. If you haven't watched us yet, we put out some pretty good graphics, some content there. We've got YouTube shorts on the way as well. So go subscribe to our YouTube page. We would love that. We would appreciate that. That is Barrels and Barrels Pod. That is also where you can find us on Facebook, Barrels and Barrels Pod, Twitter, Barrels and Barrels. And then you can email us, barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. We've got stickers. We've got shirts. We've got some merch coming down the line, I think, here over the next couple of weeks that you'll be excited about. And don't forget, you can always watch us on YouTube and stream us Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, and iHeartRadio podcasts. Please give us a rating and review there, too, because we would love it, and we would really appreciate it, and we would like to know what you guys think. Do we suck? Are we good? I think there's also even like a what'd you think of this episode question on Spotify if you're listening there as well. So answer that for us. Give us some feedback. We want to make it as awesome of an experience for you. Maybe we're doing something. Brandon, you talk too much. Brandon, you make fun of Michael too much. Michael doesn't know how to talk. I don't know. Whatever it is, let us know. Yeah. So, Michael, with that said, you got anything else for us?
Yes, I do have one more thing.
Yes, let's hear it.
So, Correa goes to his press conference or tweets out, Instagrams out, and says, "I'm so happy to be back home." Come on, dude. We know you were not first choice. They were not second choice. The Twins were a third choice. Don't.
He really I think he really wanted to be in New York, because didn't his kid have like a Mets jersey or something on, like the day that he supposedly signed with the?
He did that Instagram where he was playing with the kid as they were getting their toenails cut or something, their fingernails cut to distract him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he wanted to be a Met, and yeah, for him
I'm surprised.
to Twins fans.
I'm surprised. We didn't touch as much as I thought we were going to be on this, but I'm surprised that he didn't. Another team didn't try to throw $6,200,000 at him, right?
That wasn't even that much a year.
33.3. It's the highest, I think, of all the shortstops, isn't it? I think Trey was a little lower than that. So
You're okay.
but it's in 6 years, it's not going to be killing you forever. So, and that has been all for Barrels and Barrels of Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Michael disappeared, so I get to do the Let's Go this week. Let's go.